Howdy, geeks and gamers. It's Jesse Milestone, bringing you your weekly dose of mindless entertainment. Only today, we're going to cover a not-so-mindless topic. We're going to talk about something really kind of deeply upsetting. So, in case you didn't see this, over the weekend, an article in the New York Times came out by one Daniel Pollock Pelsner, a white male professor who wanted to talk to us about how the 1964 Mary Poppins, the original Mary Poppins, is in fact racist, because everything is racist. Leave it to a white guy to stir up random racial tensions where there don't have to be any. Which is actually, side note, leading me to believe that maybe white men are all secretly racist, because this seems to be a big trend in these so-called liberal white men, where they just want to pick apart all of these things, make them racist, which really just serves to stir up racial divide. They do the same thing with their male feminism, where they really just stir up tension between the sexes and don't actually solve anything. So maybe the real problem with these white male racists is actually the liberals, and after all, that really wouldn't surprise me. But anyway, I digress. So this article, this phenomenal article in the New York Times by a random white dude who knows so much about race and who gets offended by what, decides to tell us how Mary Poppins is racist because the chimney sweeps are in blackface. Yeah, that's right, the chimney sweeps are in blackface. No, they have not garnered soot all over their features from being inside of a chimney. No, they are being racist. And what's worse, the worst part in his mind, the absolute worst here, is the fact that Mary Poppins herself blacks up. Not as an act of solidarity with the working class, no, as an act of mockery of the black folk. Clearly, because, a little bit of powder here and here and here, when her face is still mostly white, is obviously racist. And now to just slam the point down further, he draws upon the old 1934 novels, or whatever time the novel came out, the original novel, in which there's some strong language usage, where they use the word Hottentot, which they do use in the film. Hottentot, by the way, is an archaic, outdated slang term for a black person from South Africa that nobody uses anymore, but it was used in this book in a more intense, like, oh my god, get these people out of my house kind of way. But the movie was relayed farcically when the admiral screams something about them Hottentots and wanting to shoot them. He fires his cannons off of his roof and all that stuff. So, horrifying racism, because, it was the 1960s. I'm sure there wasn't more racially charged language happening at the time. I'm sure there weren't more offensive terms being thrown about. In fact, by the 1960s, by the time they were using this word in the film, most people had completely forgotten about it. It's really hard to be offended by something that you don't know the meaning of. But no, this article does not stop there. It does not just stop with this absurd concept that having soot on your face makes you in blackface, right? Which we can see is still happening all over. The picture of the guy eating lunch straight out of the coal mine. Oh, that's racist. He's in blackface. No. He's just doing a hard day's work, which you people accusing him of being in blackface clearly don't know anything about, or you might have some understanding about the context of that photo. So no, he goes on to draw these parallels, Mr. Pollock Pelsner, from the novels, which admittedly definitely have some imagery and language that was definitely, of the time. You're talking about these books that were written, in the 30s, that were things where nobody was as sensitive. Nobody cared. People were not getting offended by these things, by the word Hottentot, which, nobody knows that word. No one's offended by that word today, because nobody fucking knows what it means. Sorry, can I say that word on this channel? I don't know. I said it anyway. Deal with it. So we're talking about some other image. This is my favorite, is when he draws lines to Mary Poppins Returns to be like, that one's racist too, because... And man, this guy really stretches. We're going some serious deep tracks here. Okay, so get this. So the song, the cover's not the book. This whole little song and dance number they do. They have one reference to somebody named Hyacinth Macaw, who was naked, except for a couple feathers and a leaf, which is a reference back to Hyacinth Macaw, which was changed in a later edition of Mary Poppins from what was considered a racist stereotype of a Negro lady who was just covered in leaves on her private parts, hanging on to her naked little pickaninny child, right? So oh my god, racism, and oh my god, in the new movie, there was a straw hut depicted behind them, clearly drawing reference to this original novel, which was obviously supporting racism, not just paying homage to its source material. No, supporting racism, because obviously, how you're made a reference to a character whose name was changed so as to be more racially sensitive, but still draws some slight parallels to the original character, so it's somehow supporting racism, even though nobody knows. Nobody in the world, until you wrote the stupid-ass article, had any idea of that connection. You did this digging and created this problem that wasn't there, that did not exist. No, by the way, my favorite is this little side in the article where he's like, pickaninny is a long understood offensive term for a black child. Like, no, it actually is a very different and more complex history and was used very, very frequently as a term of endearment by the black community itself, by other communities of color. They adopted that term too. In Australia, it was used for Aboriginal children. And often it was used as a descriptor of perhaps what you could say was a racist stereotype. The idea of what a pickaninny was, perhaps was derogatory and stereotypical, but the word itself was never used offensively, except for like one example that I found. One example, which was like, all right, and the guy apologized for it. The end. So, really, dude? But no, we don't stop there. We don't stop there. We're going to draw this out, right? So the pickaninny, right, the stereotype was promoted in 18th century America and 19th century America through minstrelsism, through the minstrels who, of course, everybody knows, were known for putting on blackface and propagating these over-the-top stereotypes of black characters. And part of the pickaninny stereotype was this small, unruly black child who was impervious to pain. So impervious to the pain of his labor. So all of his slaving around didn't bother him or get him down or get under his skin. So, the chimney sweep scene where we all have soot on our faces and we're dancing around making light of our work is an obvious reference to that. Duh! I mean, everybody can see that, clear as day. And then, even worse, in the updated version of that scene in Mary Poppins Returns, where the lamplighters are dancing around and they turn the word work into smile and smirk. Oh my god, what an obviously racist reference to the racist minstrel shows exploiting black people of the day. Now, I could do a whole another video on minstrelsism, on the minstrel era and what that was and what that meant for the black community, because that's a lot to unpack as well, but that is an entire other video in and of itself, so we'll just gloss right past that and get to the biggest reach in this entire article. Alright, you ready for this one? So, way back in the day, there was a Mickey Mouse cartoon called Mickey's Melodrama or something silly like that, which was a parody of Uncle Tom's Cabin, and in it, Mickey put on some blackface and played a character, Topsy, who was an obvious pickaninny stereotype, whatever. All right, so that's the thing that happened. Great. There was a character named Topsy in Mary Poppins Returns. And her hair was kind of curly and unruly. Obvious racism! Could not have been a reference to a very, very similarly written character named Turvy in one of the Mary Poppins novels. No, could not have been that. Definitely uber racist reference to this Mickey Mouse cartoon that nobody has heard of, that nobody has remembers, that nobody has ever seen. I mean, so this is the problem. This is where we get to the insane problem here, is that this article is creating racial divide and racial tension where none existed. And look, even if the intention of the people who created that movie was, the chimney sweeps are in blackface, ha ha ha, not you and I watching the movie growing up, we didn't think that. We didn't see that. We thought, duh, the kids are all covered in soot because, they went through the chimney. Oh, the kids are scared of Dick Van Dyke's character because he's covered in soot and looks scary and they don't recognize him and he's this random man who grabbed them in the street. None of us are looking at me like, oh my god, the scary black man. None of us watched that movie and thought that. So the fact that this guy, that Daniel Hawk-Bilzer, watches this movie and thinks those things clearly means to me that he's the racist here. We don't need this racially charged language and material picking apart these tiny little things that no one would ever think of. How racist do you have to be to see racial tension and divide in this nitpicky of source material? I mean, these people really need to take a step back and examine themselves and understand that they're not the ones doing good. They're not the heroes here. They're not the champions. They're not the ones creating progress and equality in this country. They're the ones holding us back because they're refusing to let go of all these tiny little things that don't exist, that don't matter. There's no intention there. Nobody wrote Mary Poppins Returns being like, let's see how many racist references we can slip in without anyone noticing. That didn't happen. I mean, wake up. Get with it. I don't know what else I can say. I mean, how absurd is this? Like, you tell me, how utterly ridiculous is this? I mean, I hope that I don't know what this is accomplishing, bringing this to your attention. Hopefully that we can call this nonsense out when we see it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you want to see more of me, I am yelling all the time on Mindless Entertainment, so go ahead and check that out. Otherwise, I'll see you on Geeks and Gamers next week. Bye.